Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for being here today, Monday. Hope you had a nice weekend. And today my guest is Amanda O Rourke. She's coming from the UK. So welcome, Amanda, and thank you for being here today. And Amanda has 2 adult sons, and she lives in Horsham, West Sussex, UK, with her husband, her dog, and her cat. After 18 years in the corporate world, in 2007, she set up and ran her own multi-award-winning business. Whilst the business was very successful, she was not happy. She developed chronic anxiety and reached the point of burnout. It was then that she made radical changes to her life and to her business operation. After that, her business grew year on year, and she was happier than ever. She sold her business after 11 years for 6 figures. Wow, well done. She retrained and became an inner calm coach to high-achieving women in business. She now works with female entrepreneurs to help them navigate the calm and peaceful road to success so that they mentally thrive in their business. So today, welcome Amanda, you're going to talk to us about acceptance.
Yes, thank you, Isabelle. That's a really lovely introduction. Acceptance is a big piece, so I'm excited to share, what I've learned along the way about it.
And we are happy to listen to your wisdom about it.
So the first thing that I wanted to address is a lot of people don't fully understand what acceptance is. So what I thought I'd do is go through what it is and what it isn't, and then how do we bring that into our lives? How do we really fully embrace acceptance? And a lot of people might be very familiar with the saying, accepting what is. So accepting the status quo, if you like. And I think that for a lot of people is hard, because what if you don't like your circumstances? And it may well be that most of your life is good, but there's a tiny part that you're not happy with. And being human beings, we'll focus on that. We'll ignore everything that's good and we'll focus on what's not good. And that becomes our driving kind of force, if you like. And they do, don't they? So where your energy goes, that's where you're going to put your attention, and vice versa. So it's important to look at how we can address that and how we can kind of redress the balance, if you like, so we're not totally focused on the negative in our life. And one way you can do that is by learning acceptance. And the best thing I can say about acceptance, and the way I would always describe it if somebody was saying to me, well, what is it? It's that feeling of peace that you get when you make peace with what is. But it's actually about releasing any resistance you've got to what is. And the best way I can explain that is, if you have something in your life that you don't like, you will feel that in your body. Viscerally, you feel that resistance, you feel that uncomfortable discomfort, whatever it is you feel, that is resistance within you. So it's easy to see and feel and acknowledge. So if you can imagine the opposite of that, where it's peace and it doesn't disturb you and you're okay with it, then that is what acceptance is. Does that make sense to you, Isabelle?
Oh, totally. It's just like releasing the resistance and finding peace because we've accepted the situation, or what happened. So, or accepting as well that we are not controlling the situation, and just accept it, release, peace.
Yeah. And I think that the easy thing to remember is that resistance brings pain. So the more we resist something, the more we cause ourselves to suffer.
And sometimes it's even worse. Sometimes we resist so much that when it comes back, it's like a boomerang, and
yes, yeah, it comes back sort of bigger than it started. I understand what you're saying, yeah. But acceptance brings peace, which is the opposite. And I think, it's not very sexy and it's not very appealing, and it's not like, oh, loads of money, but actually peace is what we all seek. We just don't know it.
Well, getting up in the morning and feeling peaceful, going to bed feeling peaceful, that's amazing. So
Yeah. But I think we do as well, we condition our brains to operate in a certain way. And so it becomes our natural default method. So people who say, you know, and I've heard this myself in my family, I'm a born worrier. I can't do that. I don't accept that, because I think, you know, we know that you can rewire your brain, you can retrain yourself to think differently. So all I do when I work with my clients is getting them to look at things with a different perspective, so that they can actually bring themselves into alignment with it, so they can actually make their peace with it. And often what I notice is that the things that they can't accept are the things they can't control.
exactly.
And that is the big piece I think that people miss, is that you can't control it, so why worry about it? And that seems very simplistic, and I understand that people go, oh, it's easy for you to say, but truly I've faced some really quite difficult times in my life where I've realized I've got a choice here, because acceptance is a choice. And that's hard to hear. It's a bit like when people say happiness is a choice, and you go, hold on a minute, have you seen my life? You know, and then people justify why they feel bad. Well, actually, it's still a choice to see it that way.
Or
And I
to
think,
change it or not.
yes, yes. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's the key is can you change it? Is it within your control to be able to change it? And so if you can change it, then do what you can. But if you can't change it, why worry about it? Why get stressed about it? Why battle against it when there's nothing you can do? And so
I've got that image about swimming against current.
Yeah,
We'll always go back. So there's no point.
Yes, it's an interesting metaphor you use there. I love it, because there's a whole series of books written by Abraham Hicks, and they talk about the flow of life and how it's a stream and you're going downstream. And basically, as human beings, there's a cork bobbing on the top of the stream. And so what happens is, if you don't resist, then this cork just bobs along nicely downstream and everything's going along swimmingly and you're above water and everything's great. But what we do as human beings is we push that cork down to try and control it. And that's where the resistance is. But if we just let that go, the cork bobs up to the top and floats downstream. So it's actually trying to, like you used a beautiful metaphor as well, is it's actually trying to remember that, what am I doing here? Am I resisting this, or am I not? Am I resisting, or am I letting go? And actually asking yourself those questions in circumstances where you feel challenged, or then it can give you the power to then make your choice. Can I do anything about this? And if yes, then do so. But if no, then I've got to let this go.
Exactly.
Because otherwise I'll suffer. And you can apply this through all sorts of different scenarios in your life. So one scenario that I've faced recently myself has been somebody that I love just died. And that's like probably the most extreme example. But when somebody dies, you have this denial, you have this, no, that can't be right, that can't be happening. But the minute you start to accept it and make your peace with it, you notice that the pain and the suffering and the angst that you feel diminishes immediately. And whilst you're not saying, I'm okay with it, it's just actually acknowledging it and being at peace with what has happened, rather than, you know, sort of fighting it and resisting it. But I think that one of the things I would say, talking about what acceptance is as well, is it's not just accepting what is, it's actually, it's emotional ease around what is. So it's more than just accepting it. It's about, it is about being okay with it. In his book, Letting Go, David Hawkins talks about the state of acceptance and what that means. And he says it's a place of harmony. And if you can reach that on the emotion, on the scale that he created, then you're actually doing very well if you get to that point of acceptance, because then the world looks good to you, the world looks well, and you can find peace within whatever happens. one of the things that I work with my clients is to be able to be so grounded within yourself that it doesn't matter what happens outside of you, because you know at your core that you're okay. And David Hawkins describes this state of acceptance as, I'm okay, you're okay, it's okay. And I just think that's quite powerful, because you're talking about now.
Exactly.
And I think that's the important thing, is because we're often in the future when we're worrying, we're like, yeah, but what if that happens? No, but what's happening now?
Exactly. Be in the present.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only place that you can actually be. You're right. You can only actually be physically here right now in this moment. And so if you think about this moment as creating the future for you, you're going to be projecting what you're doing now into the future, then that should be emotional ease. That should be flow and all the things that we've sort of talked about. It gives you that kind of very powerful feeling that that's what I'm going to get in the future. If I think about this now, that's what's going to happen, and that's how it's going to be. And we see this with worrying. I don't know if, Isabelle, you've ever said this to yourself. I know how I have, is I knew that was going to happen. And it's because you've thought about it so much and worried about it so much. You've almost, channeled it into existence.
Exactly. You even like attracted it.
Yeah. Yeah. And but it's almost like, again, it's a very human thing to be proven right. It's like validated that, yeah, that worrying was worthwhile because I knew it was going to happen. It's almost like you've got it backwards.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Instead of thinking, okay, everything's going to be happening and in the right way, and I'm not going to worry, and I'm in the present.
Yes, yeah. I think that's, one of the most powerful things to remember, is that that's where your creative power is now.
Mm-hmm.
The past is gone, and the future doesn't exist because it's not here. And it can change with what you do right now, and that's where your powerful presence should be.
Some people have, or some clients have said to me, yeah, that's fair enough, Isabelle, but how do I actually manage to be in the present? So I was giving a tip, and actually, I tend to talk to myself in my head when I'm being in the present and saying, okay, now I'm walking, and now I'm seeing a bird. Now I'm washing the dishes. Oh, I'm taking the plate, and I actually, breaking down all the actions I'm doing, so I'm really in the present, and I'm not thinking about, oh, I forgot to do that. Oh, I forgot to ring somebody, and grab my phone and try and ring them. So it's just like focusing on what we are doing right now.
Yes, yeah. It's a very good way of doing it, what you've just described. Because I think one thing that I came across years ago, and it was basically when you're appreciating something. So if you stop and there's a beautiful vista in front of you and you see it and think, wow, then you're seeing what was described, was you're seeing through the eyes of God, through the source, divine, the universe. You're seeing it exactly as you're meant to see it, with that amazement in your, And the one thing that I would say is to take that another step further, is when you get those moments, because they can be very few and far between, but the more you look for them, the more you'll see them. You actually stand there and you go, wow. But then you say to yourself, what do I love about this? What is so special about this? And then you start noticing all the colors and all the, how you feel and the sensation. And actually that feeling, that emotion that you create within you is very, very powerful, because you're raising your vibration in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And so in elevating that vibration, you're going to attract different things. And so that makes it such a powerful thing to do on a daily basis, if you can.
Exactly.
I set an intention every morning to see the good.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, today, I just want to see the good. And that means in people, in places, in things, and it's amazing if you set that intention, how you then actually notice it. It's a bit like they say, don't they, the reticular activating system in your brain notices things when you're looking for them. So rather like when you're buying a car, if you've decided on a certain model of car to buy, you'll see them everywhere. You'll go, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And it, you know, it may well think, you think, oh, that's a coincidence, but it's just your brain saying, notice, notice, notice. And it's exactly the same when you say to your brain, or you say to yourself, right, I'm going to see the good. You'll start to notice it. And it's just marvelous. And it actually is something which, you know, you said your clients find it hard to do, but it's actually, some of it is about just really restructuring the way you look at things on a daily basis, and setting that intention to be intentional about what you're looking at. So it's quite a good one. Gratitude is a big thing when it comes to acceptance, because it is it's the other half of the coin, if you like. You accept what is, but then you look at behind you at all the things you're not looking at that's good about your life, and you turn 180 and go, wow, that's great. Oh, that's amazing. And again, you're lifting your vibration when you do that, because you're not focusing on the thing that's annoying you behind you.
You're not focusing on the negative. And I feel as well that I'm being grateful, you attract new things as well.
Yes.
Because you're positive, as if you have like a negative thought or negative thoughts, because it happens as well during the day, what will you get? A negative situation or negative situations.
Yes.
So, yeah, gratitude is every day. I work, I've got the opportunity to work in my garden, and it's sunny, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is very good. I also think of acceptance as well, though, as about letting go. It's actually, because what we do is when we can't accept something, we hold on to what should have been, or what should have happened.
The way we want it to be.
The exact way we wanted it to be. It hasn't worked out precisely. And I mean, like, I love control, so I know what this means. It's like, this is how it should have been, you know. So good example of that is my wedding day. I worried for weeks before I was getting married that it was going to rain on my wedding day. Now, conversely, my husband said, doesn't matter if it rains, we're getting married, it doesn't matter. So his perspective was miles better than mine. We'll just agree on that for starters. And come my wedding day, I had this real sense of, it's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's a bit late by then, because I'd done a whole shed of worrying by that point. But of course, the rain came. And of course, when the rain came, the most peculiar reaction in me, and that was, it's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And it was really, it didn't matter, but actually the minute I stepped outside, the sun came out and we didn't have rain for the rest of the day. So it's one of these things where it is about what you put out and project, but also it's about what's the underlying reason for why you're feeling that way. And like you say, if you've got a precise definition of how things should be, you're going to be disappointed.
Oh, yes.
So it's about, like you said, it's about opening up and being open to other ways for things to work out for you.
Be flexible as well, and for example, the weather, that's something we cannot control. Or sometimes when we want to impose our view on other people, we want them to change. Well, no, we can't control them. They are the way they are. We can give advice, but not control. So it's just like letting go. Well, they've got a path to walk on. Well, let them do it. And
you raise a great point, and I think this is something which I think a lot of people struggle with. It's other people's behaviour that causes a lot of resistance and a lot of grief. And I've had to work on this. We all do, because nobody likes everybody, and you know, that's just the way we are as human beings. And there's people that have come into my life that I've really struggled to like or to get on with. And then obviously then there's family that you have to get on with them, or at least, you know, try. So when those relationships break down, you're kind of almost like, I've got to do something about this, otherwise, you know, things will implode. And I think the best thing that I can say to you and to the listeners is that the thing that helped me the most was actually believing that everybody is doing their best.
Exactly. I agree.
I'm glad, because it's very difficult when you're looking at somebody through your own lens of expectation. And again, I speak from experience here. It's a hard lesson to learn, but if you expect people to be the same as you in every you're going to be disappointed again. And I have, you know, when I was running my cleaning business, I had such high expectations of the people who worked for me that I was really setting the bar way too high for them. And so when they were kind of coming up, you know, but they were actually doing what I've asked them, but not necessarily to the way that I would have done it, I was getting annoyed and just frustrating. But actually, when I could see that it didn't matter, we still got to the same result, you know, then it helped me. But actually, knowing that they were doing the best that they could, and that just helped me enormously. And I think that's what we forget sometimes. We forget that compassion for each other. When you know, somebody's let us down, for instance, you can only see it from your perspective, and you think, why couldn't they have done it this way? And you know, but actually, if you understand that no matter what's going on, people are just doing their best. And I think very easy for people to say, no, they're not, because, you know, they're criminals or they've not done this, or, you know, but actually you look into their background and what's happened to them and how they were raised and all the values that they were not given when they were children and whatever, they are probably doing their best with what they've got.
Exactly what they've learned, right?
Yes.
And the environment they live in or they lived in. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think in that sense, I always think people have good intentions. The thing is, they might not have the same intention as mine, right? So
Yeah,
and that's why sometimes there is like a discrepancy or a gap between why I expected and what they did. But there is another way as well, is we need to express what we want. So they are not like psychic. So
that's a very good point as well, because often we do that. We expect something of somebody, but they don't know we expect that of them. And so, you know, there's a mismatch. You're right, absolutely. And of course, there's the opposite as well, where we have an expectation of somebody and they go above and beyond. And then, of course, we're delighted.
Yes.
You know, and that's the thing to remember, isn't it? That, you know, it's about, there's a school of thought that believes that we should all lower our expectations, because then, you know, we will be far easily satisfied and less disappointed and less upset and in pain about it. So I just think it's quite an interesting thing when you look at what you're expecting of someone else, and like you say, check in, make sure that you're on the same page at least.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you could be setting yourself up for, you know, for a lot of woe. So I think the one thing that to go on from that whole piece about accepting other people for what, you know, is self-acceptance. And I think this is, you know, this is something that's very dear to my heart, because self-acceptance is probably why we're all here. I do believe we're all on this journey of life to experience and to observe and to look at the world and navigate our own way through it. But I think it's all a point of trying to accept who we truly are, and really, you know, sort of love ourselves for everything that we are. So it's about really, even the nasty bits, even the bits we're not really keen on or we won't show to people. And I do a lot of work in my coaching, sort of shadow personality work, where you look at the darker side of your personality, and these are maybe the qualities, the traits that you're not proud of. But actually, it's important that you do look at those and expose them and embrace them almost, because without doing that, you're not allowing the whole of you to be expressed. And that's what I think it is. It's about this beautiful self-expression, and to be who we are truly meant to be here on earth is the purpose of life, in my opinion. So
yeah, life is a learning curve as well. So we learn to accept the way we are, and sometimes parts of our shadows can help us in our life. So Absolutely. It's not just like putting them aside. It's just, as you say, embracing them, including those parts, but in a way controlling that there is like a balance, and it's not one or the other.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's, you know, like I say, it's about being able to express yourself as yourself. And I think that's why people are polarized by people who are truly they've truly self-actualized. They've really stepped into who they truly are. So people in the media would be people like Lady Gaga. She's really stepped into who she is, and it polarizes people on her. I mean, I know a lot of people who love her, but equally there are people who don't like her, you know, and you can see why, probably because the people who don't like her don't like the fact that she's had that courageous step forward where she's like, I don't care what anyone else thinks. It's what I think that's important.
Exactly.
And
I
that's
accept the way I am.
yeah, that's it, exactly. So that's a really key. And I think in his book You Are Enough, Panache Desai, he talks about the fact that what we're doing is we begin to trust that every experience is for us. But what he talks about is that what happens to you is gently guiding you to your highest self-expression. And I think what he means by that is whatever happens to you, it enables you to grow, like you were saying, but also to express yourself more deeply, more truly to who you are.
Yeah, it's true. And be yourself, and not like being a people pleaser and pleasing yourself first, listening to yourself, listening to your needs. So
Yeah. And I think the more you can do that, the more you can tune into your own intuition about what's right for you. So if you're in a position of trust where you think, actually, whatever happens to me is the right thing for me, it's for me, even though it might feel painful, it might be challenging, but there's a reason that I'm going through this, or this is coming in front of me. And just to step back to what we were talking about, the self-acceptance and the shadow personality, what we do, and you know this from the work you've done, is if you see something in someone else that you don't like, it's generally because it's part of you, it's reflection, you're projecting it onto someone else and disliking it because it's part of you that you haven't accepted. So it's about actually looking at that and saying, okay, what is it about them I don't like, and really being honest in your answer. Because often it's things about yourself that you don't like. So I go into a Zoom room, 20 people, and there's a really loud woman in the room. I'm like, ah! It's because I'm loud myself, or I can be.
Oh, I doubt that, but
trust me, I can. So you know, it's that, and because of that, now when I go into a Zoom room, if somebody's loud, I'm like, yeah, I get you, you're my buddy over there, because we're very similar. And so it's playing with it, making it fun, having just really kind of embracing that whole piece, really. But the trusting that it's all for you, is those people will come into your life to show you what you don't like. And it's, if you pay attention, you can love yourself more because of those people you don't like.
Yeah, I think people come into your life to be taught or to teach you. So and I agree. People, you feel like there is something about them, and there isn't a connection, or something really irritates you. That's where you have to go. That's where you think, oh, yes, there is this effect, mirror effect. So
yes, yeah. It's funny, I've got a coach friend called Claire, and she says there's gold where you notice there's something irritating you about somebody. There's gold there, so mine for it, because it's gold for you. It's a learning process for you about what it is that you haven't embraced about yourself. And I always think that now, if somebody irritates me, I'm thinking, oh, there's gold.
That's good to just switch the mindset. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very helpful. So another thing that I would say about acceptance is that the opposite we talked about is resistance. And what resistance really is fear. So if you resist something, it's because you're scared to kind of feel the emotion that's trying to come up for you about it, whatever it is that you're resisting. So for example, if you're resisting confronting somebody about something, say somebody's done something that's hurt you and you want to talk to them about it, but you don't want to confront them with it, the fear there is that you won't be able to manage the situation, which again is a control thing. but it's also about what might be said and how you might not be able to keep your own self-control, and there's things that could happen, you know, so it's all of that. But it's the fear that you need to address before you even go into that confrontation, whatever it is. What am I scared of? What is frightening here for me? And then really kind of process that before you then take the next step. And accepting that whatever happens, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite a big thing, this whole acceptance piece. But one of the things I wanted to mention as well is that the serenity prayer, I'm sure you're aware of it. So the serenity prayer says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think if there's one message that, you know, we say here quite emphatically, it's like, you know, ask yourself, can I do anything about this? And if yes, then take the action, do it. Yeah, absolutely. If not, don't worry.
Let go.
Let go of it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's something, it took me a long time, but that's the way I'm doing now. It's just like, okay, can you change it? No? Well, in that case, just leave it. Things will happen, so it will be changed for you, but not by you.
Yes, yeah. I think the one thing that we do the most as human beings is we try and change the past.
Mm-hmm.
We think that by thinking about it enough times, we'll change it. It's not going to happen.
It's gone.
It is. It is. But the thing is, what we don't realize is the more energy we spend in the past going over and over it, the more we're projecting into the future, the same sort of stuff, the same sort of energy and the same sort of regret. So you don't want to be doing that. It's like you say, it's about kind of just, okay, I made a mistake or whatever it is, and then sort of making your peace with it and thinking, right, I can't change it. I've got to let that go. And there may be in that mix, there may be some forgiveness there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a biggie. You know,
yes.
It could be forgiving someone else, but more than likely it's forgiving yourself. Yeah,
exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
I think forgiving ourselves is more difficult than forgiving somebody else, because we can always say, okay, well, they didn't do it on purpose, or they didn't know, or we can find an excuse. As for us, it's just like, well, I should have done it, I should have done it, I should have thought about that. And it's yeah, forgiveness is a big thing. But when we've mastered it, when we've mastered it, then it's so easy to just accept and let go and move on.
Yeah, it's actually applying the same principle to yourself that you would to another person. Is I was doing my best with what I had at the time. And, you know, we all know that making a decision can be difficult. And if we make the wrong decision, boy, do we pay the penalty and beating ourselves up afterwards. So it's actually kind of thinking, okay, with hindsight, that maybe wasn't the best decision, but it felt like the best decision at the time. And it's remembering that really, and then releasing that feeling of guilt.
True. And thinking, okay, question, what have I learned?
Yeah, big one.
What have I learned? What did I get out of it? Okay, that can be painful, but there is a lesson there somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we've only scratched the surface, but I didn't know whether there's anything else you wanted to add, whether there's anything you want to ask me.
No, I mean, that was on acceptance. I don't know if you've got anything else you can share with us about acceptance, but I think for me, the best thing is accepting and let it go. That's really, I would say they are linked to each other, because, and control. And the third word as well is control.
Yeah.
Stop the control where you can't control, just let go and accept that you can't do anything about it.
Yes, yeah. And the way you phrased it's very good, because the one thing I would say is the more you practice this, the more you'll get better at it. But if you feel like I need to let go, but you know you can't, then you just have to go back to, you know, what happened and then process your emotion around it. And actually that's what's stopping you from letting go, because there's still emotion attached that you haven't yet released. And so it's about going into that. If anybody's interested in this more, there's a brilliant book by David Hawkins called Letting Go, and he goes into the process of letting go so that you can actually, you know, harness that more and more. So it's very, very powerful, and it can really, really help you release old stuff, stuff from the past that you have held on to for too long. So yeah.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you very much, Amanda. And I know you've got for our audience like a freebie. Tell us about it.
So the freebie is called Fearlessly Calm, I believe, because I've got a few freebies, but I think that's the one we said, wasn't it? And Fearlessly Calm is basically, it's what I define as my success mindset. So it's combining being fearless in your approach in life. And again, that goes to acceptance and trust, and being sort of very purposeful about your life, but combining it with calm within, so that you actually know that whatever happens to you, you're going to be okay. And that comes from the perspective of, you know, you're an eternal being. There's no thing that really is going to harm that. You know, that's not going to be something which anybody can really destroy. So it's about being calm within and knowing that once you've mastered that within, then everything without will not faze you. I like to think of it as being the eye of the storm. So you're the eye of the storm, and everything's going on around you, and any drama, anything that's going on around you just doesn't touch you, because you're calm and you're grounded. And that's, you know, that's the one thing. But the fearlessly bit is about looking at what causes fear, and then how you can then master it. So what you can do to quench that fear, and actually to stop it becoming, you know, untenable.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Amanda. So if you want to get Amanda's freebie, you just click in the description. I've put the link there. It's a form, so you can click there, or I invite you to contact Amanda, and you can see alongside a name, she put a website, so happycoach.co.uk. So don't hesitate to contact her to get more information about acceptance, forgiveness, and shadow work. I think that's fantastic. So Amanda, thank you ever so much for being here, and come back anytime on the talk show. I mean, that was a fantastic presentation, and I would be happy to have you back for dark shadow work, or any topic you want. And next week, I will be inviting Chidima Anusem, and she's going to talk about positioning your heart to love again. So acceptance, let it go, and then we are positioning our heart for love. So that's fantastic. And if you haven't watched the previous talk shows, don't worry, just click on the YouTube channel, Phoenix Coaching and Training, click on subscribe, click on that little bell, and you won't miss any. So I wish you a nice day, afternoon, and evening for you, Amanda. Thank you again for being here today. So I say next week, see you next week. Bye-bye.